Convicted of his first crime at the age of 9, George Thomas, nicknamed Geweld, is now 48. The alleged gang boss has denied involvement in the crimes. He has 19 previous convictions. Thomas is believed to have terrorized the Cape Flats community of Bishop Lavis. It's where he grew up. From housebreaking and theft in the mid-1970s to a murder conviction in 1986, Geweld spent years behind bars. He's currently in solitary confinement.
On the gritty streets of Cape Town's Cape Flats, one name echoed through prison corridors and township alleys alike: George Thomas. A man whose very name commanded loyalty, fear, and violence. Known as the ruthless leader of the notorious 28's gang, Thomas became a symbol of power and ultimately of downfall. His rise from the streets of Bishop Lavis to the top of South Africa's prison hierarchy remains one of the most shocking organized crime stories in the nation's history. This is the rise and fall of George Thomas, the gang lord who built an empire of blood and fear, only to lose it all. To understand Thomas's story, we must first understand the world he came from, a world ruled by the numbers gangs inside South Africa's prisons. There are three main factions: the 26 gang, known for smuggling and money; the 27s, who act as peacekeepers and enforcers; and the 28s, the feared warriors. The 28s are infamous for their violence, discipline, and their strict code of loyalty and power. The Cape Flats, a sprawling region on the outskirts of Cape Town, has long been ground zero for the country's gang epidemic. Poverty, unemployment, overcrowding, and decades of inequality created the perfect storm. And in that chaos, gangs became a way of life. George Thomas grew up in one of the most dangerous communities on the Cape Flats. For many young men there, survival meant joining a gang. The 28s promised power and respect, but that protection always came with a deadly cost. Inside prison, the 28s created a military-style hierarchy. They called themselves the soldiers. They fought for dominance, over rival gangs, over territory, over lives. It was within this brutal system that George Thomas found his purpose and began his climb to infamy.
Notorious and feared, George Geweld Thomas, leader of the 28's gang. His reach and influence stretched wide, from the Cape Flat streets to inside prison. Thomas was convicted on 52 charges, including 7 of murder. His trial was one of the biggest and most complex gang prosecutions in the province. The court heard that Thomas made and received 33,000 phone calls while in solitary confinement, orchestrating the murder of people who were to testify against him. The matter is still being investigated.
Thomas wasn't just another gangster. He was calculating, strategic, and utterly ruthless. By the early 2000s, Thomas had become one of the most powerful figures in the 28's Bishop Lavis faction. He commanded loyalty both inside and outside prison. His word became law. In 2015, after years of investigation, authorities exposed the full scale of his operations. Thomas and several co-accused faced more than 50 charges, including 7 murders, racketeering, and illegal firearm possession. The trial revealed how deeply his network reached, from prison cells to the streets of Cape Town. Investigators uncovered over 33,000 phone calls made from inside prison, linking Thomas directly to assassinations, intimidation, and gang coordination. Even behind bars, he ran his empire like a general, ordering murders, managing extortion rackets, and punishing betrayal. His ability to control street operations from behind bars made him one of the most feared gang leaders in South Africa. He wasn't just a criminal, he was a strategist in a deadly, ongoing war. The Cape Flats had become a battlefield, a place where turf wars erupted daily and lives were lost over power, territory, and revenge. Under Thomas's influence, the 28s dominated areas like Bishop Lavis, Delft, and Hanover Park. Their crimes included extortion, gun trafficking, and contract killings. Many murders were ordered to maintain control or silence witnesses. Victims included Angelo Clazen, Glenston Martin, Yusria Abrahams, and Haywin Stridham, names representing only a fraction of the bloodshed. The violence didn't stop at the prison gates. When Thomas was transferred between facilities, it often sparked fear of renewed gang wars. Reports described how his movement between prisons caused unrest among rival factions, proof of his influence even while locked away. Communities across the Cape Flats lived in constant fear. families were caught in crossfire. Children grew up knowing the sound of gunfire as part of daily life. When George Thomas was finally sentenced, the Western Cape government called it a victory, not just for law enforcement, but for the communities terrorized by his empire. But even as the sentence was read, many knew, cutting off the head doesn't kill the beast. After years of investigations, Thomas stood before the Western Cape High Court. Over 70 state witnesses testified. Prosecutors presented thousands of pages of evidence, murder plots, gang communications, and firearm deals. On June 3, 2015, George Thomas was convicted on 53 charges, including 7 counts of murder, racketeering, and firearm offenses. He received 7 life sentences plus 175 additional years behind bars, one of the harshest gang-related sentences in South African history. Even so, his name continued to carry weight. When officials tried to transfer him to another prison, panic spread through the community. Many feared his relocation could reignite old rivalries and spark fresh bloodshed. Officials called him a high-risk prisoner, and for good reason.
The notorious Western Cape 28's gang leader, George Thomas, nicknamed Geweld, which means violence, was sentenced to 7 life prison terms for a host of crimes, including murder.
I'm gonna be brutally honest. I'm not saying I regret it because my whole life shaped the person that I am today. But what I know for a fact, if I could have changed some things, I wouldn't be here where I am now.
And this message to the aspiring gang members from a once powerful and feared gang leader.
Stay away from drugs, guns, alcohol, teenage pregnancy or sex.
Hy staan bekend as Geweld. Die man is glo een van die mees berugte bendelede in Kaapstad.
Hy is nogal baie intelligent, baie meer. Ek het ook Mr. Big verteenwoordig en hy was baie belangrik, maar hy is baie en meer intelligent as hulle.
Geweld het 'n lang lys skuldig bevindings agter sy naam. Sy eerste aangetekende misdaad is in 1975 gepleeg, toe hy slegs 9 jaar oud was. Hy bevind hom nou weer in die beskuldigde bank op 50-jarige ouderdom. Hierdie keer saam met 16 ander. Regter Chantal Fortuin het Geweld verlede week skuldig bevind op 53 aanklagte. Dit sluit in 3 wat met bendegeweld verband hou, 7 van moord en 3 van poging tot moord. Daar is bevind dat Geweld opdrag gegee het vir die moorde op minstens 6 getuies tydens die 4 jaar lange verhoor en dat Geweld meer as 33.000 oproepe vanuit sy tronksel gemaak het om bendebedrywighede te koördineer. Hy het egter skuld aan al hierdie misdade ontken toe hy ter versagting getuig het. Hy sê hy neem volle verantwoordelikheid vir die misdade wat hy wel in die verlede gepleeg het, maar hou vol hy is hierdie keer onskuldig. Geweld sê verder dat die 28 bende geen funksie buite die tronk het nie en hy kon om daardie rede nie opdrag gee vir die misdrywe nie.
There are many publications about it, that they only function in prison. And that it is true that it is there to enforce their rights and to see that there is some justice done in prison. But outside, the rules of the prison gang, we had a prison gang general who testified here. When you go out, you cease to be a 28 or 26 or 27 or Air Force or Big 5 and so on. Then you go back, if you belonged outside to a street gang, then you go join that street gang again.
Die 28 bende is glo in die vroeë 1900s gestig. Volgens die navorsing wat gedoen is, het hulle glo die mees berugte naam en bestaan uit seksuele oortreders wat snags hulle misdade pleeg. Die verrigtinge vir vonnisoplegging gaan na verwagting nog 'n paar weke duur.
I'm amazed how he can live with this, because he's been in isolation for about 7 years, and the previous regime, as you heard, that used to be torture, even a few months. But he has a very strong personality, and he's not on drugs, and he doesn't even smoke. And, he's intelligent enough to realize that there must be consequences and there must be a so-called criminal justice system.
Thomas says he grew up without a father, and that could have had a negative impact on his life. He's set to appeal his conviction and sentence. His co-accused are due to call witnesses tomorrow to testify in mitigation.